G'day everyone, still here in Morton Island. Still wet, but that's alright. We had a fair bit of rain last night. Things are a little bit damp, which is kind of appropriate really. Because today I'm going to tell you about the flood in Australia which cost the most number of lives. It was on this day, on the 25th of June 1852, in a little town called Gundagai.
So the little settlement of Gundagai was subjected to the worst flood disaster in Australian history on 25th of June 1852. At least 89 lives were lost as the Murrumbidgee River broke its banks. The Murrumbidgee River is in New South Wales and flows northwesterly for 559 miles and is one of the main tributaries of the Murray River. The town of Gundagai was originally situated on the main crossing point of the Murrumbidgee. At the time of its founding, the area was in a grip of one of the worst droughts of the 1800s, and so nobody thought too much about building along the banks of what appeared to be a fairly tranquil and slow-flowing river. In 1844, a flood gave some cause for concern, and the residents requested that land grants were opened up on higher ground, but these requests were denied. And in the long run, it didn't appear as though a flooded Murrumbidgee would do much damage. The month of June in 1852 was an incredibly wet month, with almost 3 weeks torrential rain. The rising waters had the town isolated by the end of the month. By the afternoon of the 24th of June, the water had reached the town and it appeared there would be a repeat of the 1844 event, and so no plans were made for possible evacuation. But the water kept rising. During the night of the 25th of June, the water had risen so far that people were forced to take refuge in their attics or on their rooftops. Now, keep in mind, this is in June in southern New South Wales. A bloody cold place to be at the best of times, but imagine sitting on the top of your roof, soaked to the bone, wind howling in the middle of the night. Throw in the fear of a potential drowning, and you can only imagine how these poor people felt. Some people tried to brave the waters and take refuge in some of the trees and some of the taller buildings. A survivor who was rescued shortly afterwards said their men, women and children never ceased screaming. We can now see a few poor creatures clinging to trees, calling for help, and then later, as the day drew on, their voices became more weak, and one after another they dropped and were swept away. At the height of the disaster, 3 Aboriginal men, known as Yarry, Jackie Jack and Long Jimmy, showed extraordinary bravery by rowing their bark canoes into the raging water and rescuing people stranded in their rooftops and in the trees, and they saved the lives of up to 40 people. As recognition, the men were awarded bravery medals as well as a payment from all the inhabitants of Gundagai at the time. And although one of them tragically died shortly afterwards from the results of the prolonged exposure to the extreme conditions. Despite the efforts of these men, 89 people lost their lives in what is still the greatest loss of life in a flood in Australia. By way of comparison, the floods which struck southeast Queensland in 2011 resulted in the tragic loss of 35 lives, which is less than half of the lives lost at Gundagai. The Gundagai losses constituted nearly 1/3 of the town's entire population. As a result of the flood, the township of Gundagai was relocated to its current location on Mount Parnassus, and it still suffers from flooding on a regular basis as the Murrumbidgee rises to the same levels as it did in 1852, but at least on the higher ground there's been no repeat of the horror scene on that day. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you want to be advised when new episodes are posted, just click on the subscribe button that's down there somewhere. If you want to find out what I'm up to, go to my website at warwickoneil.com. If you want to check out my blog site, it's notyouraverageIdiot.net, where I blog on all sorts of things from four-wheel driving, single parenting, whatever comes into my head. So I hope to hear from you soon, and cheers. See ya.